While today I would happily die protecting my daughter, when she was born, I didn't feel anything. I know how that sounds, but let me explain. I had expected to feel this overwhelming, all consuming love, accompanied by a radiant golden glow. I expected some meaningful and beautiful music to begin in the background, and for me to be lost within the moment. But what I felt was a void, as if the universe was holding its breath. The midwife had plunked this newborn infant into my arms, and I was shoved aside as she and the nurses attended to her mother, and I was left standing there holding her, and the only thought I had in my mind at the time was, wouldn't it be weird if I dropped this baby? Prior to her birth, I spent 9 months watching her bake in her mum's belly. 9 months of imagining who she would be, the things she would come to do, the adventures we would have, and the stories we would share. Worrying about whether she was going to be healthy, worrying about her mum and the dangers of pregnancy and labour, stressing about bills and financials, supporting her mum and generally being there. She was overdue by almost a week, despite 3 inductions, and for several weeks prior, I had been ready day and night for the hospital run. Basically, I never left her mum's side and was all but carrying a catcher's mitt with me in case she sneezed too hard and dropped the baby out. One of the things I regularly envisioned was this moment. I had watched this scene play out in films and television, where this moment is something akin to a game character receiving an upgrade. I was expecting to suddenly have access to this font of fatherly knowledge and understanding. I expected the instincts to kick in, and for me to be suddenly changed. The complete opposite is true. Standing there not knowing how or what to feel, I was suddenly more aware of just being me than ever. No pretense, no convenient mask or pen name to hide behind, no adrenaline left to speak of. Whatever armor I'd spent my 40 years on this earth stitching together just fell away. I was completely exposed. I didn't know what to feel because I'd never needed to feel like this before. Instead of the character of Donnie Rust that I had spent decades building and shaping was a blank page waiting for the first words. As her father, I had the incredible privilege of beginning the story of our adventure together. Of course, I wasn't going to write the only thought in my head. Instead, what I chose to write was, "You will always be safe in Dad's arms." Every father's experience of childbirth is different and unique. For me, mine was special because it didn't start with the romantic nonsense spouted out by the media. My daughter's first experience was not with her father being simply delirious with joy. It began with him making a promise to her, and that, I believe, is the difference between being a father and being a dad. Being a father has a biological component, period. It doesn't take much to be a father, and there are plenty of fathers out there that barely have that much to give. Being a dad, on the other hand, isn't about the biological component. It is about the work. It is about a promise made and the joy of working to make sure that promise is kept. I don't buy into the notion that love is some ethereal, all-consuming state that one achieves and lives in forever. That is fantasy and the ruin of people and relationships. Love is a promise that requires physical action. For me and my wife, the woman I want to be with for the rest of my life, that promise is, I will always be on your team. The physical action coming afterwards is pretty easy to follow because you always look out for your teammate. You always support them. You carry them when they need you to. And not because they'll carry you in return, but because as a team, you have to finish the game together. You look after them. You actively pursue making their day and their life easier and better. In a team, you have different roles to play, but you support that role. You support their ambitions, and you show enthusiasm for their interests. Because again, you have to finish the game together. So when I made the promise to my daughter that she would always be safe in her dad's arms, I knew that a promise is not something cast in titanium and put on display for all to see. A promise, like love, is a seed planted in the soil and nurtured, worked on day in and day out, with patience, attention, and care, so that it blooms into something that is magnificent and surprising. By the writing of this, I have 6 weeks of days with my daughter, and every day I love her more than I did yesterday, and less than I will tomorrow. That blank page is filled with 6 weeks of writing and scribbles as I document our adventures together, thus far. I have a similar situation with my wife's son. He was 9 when we first met, and a couple of months after the three of us, and the bump, moved in together, I was taking him to school one morning when he stopped, held up his hand, and made me make a pinky promise. It was a simple one. Marry my mom and make her happy. We pinky swore on it, so it doesn't matter that his mom and I had already started talking about it. It doesn't matter that I had known that I wanted to marry her from the first date when I watched her decimate an entire rack of ribs and down a pint of German beer in a single gulp. A promise is a promise, and it's bigger than just the words. Marrying his mum means that I would be his stepdad. Now, I don't care much for the step part. I don't refer to him as my stepson. I might not be his biological father, but I'm sure as hell going to be as good a dad as I can be and put in the work to make me worthy of the promise I made to him. His sister is not his half-sister. She's his little sister, and he's her big brother. We're a family, and that's that. The implications of keeping a promise. I would propose that the work involved in keeping a promise is more important to a family than the promise itself. Growing up, I knew that my parents would not make a promise if they didn't think they could do the work to keep it. This meant that if a promise was made, you could trust it, and you knew that it would not be forgotten. It was important to both parties. Now, as adults, we know that not every promise can be kept. However, we value the work done to try to keep it. I don't think I'm wrong on that either. It is always the work that counts, and there are long-term implications of consistently working for the rest of your life to keep these promises. In my case, the rest of my life to keep these 3 promises. For my wife, it means that she can rely on me. She can be vulnerable with me. She can trust me. It means I will always have her back and be looking at how I can support her next move. I will invest the time to know when to challenge her and when to carry her. For my son, the implications involve him growing up in an environment where a man and a woman treat each other with care and respect, where a family is headed up by 2 people who only compete with each other when they're playing and otherwise are always on the same team, where voices are never raised and issues are discussed honestly and without judgment or criticism, where a man is someone who does the work to keep his promises. And finally, for my daughter, whose story I will follow for the rest of my life, the standards of which she expects men to treat her will be set by me. The example of how a man should act both at home and in public will be set by my moment-to-moment actions. Her ability to form relationships based on trust will be determined by the tiniest interactions seen between her mother and me. Also, her ability to respect men will be shaped by how her mother, her brother, and the people in our lives talk about me when I'm not there. After 40 years of freewheeling and not really caring about what other people thought about me, these responsibilities were sudden and scary, and, on honest analysis, brilliant, thrilling, and exciting. From my experience, every man wants to be called on to be a hero, to be the one person that can step forward and say, "Don't worry, I have this." I see becoming a father as being this. You have to step up, make a promise, and keep it. Knowing how to do the right kind of work, though, is also obviously important, and my wife and I have spoken a lot about things, discussing our very different childhoods in different countries, and she has helped me establish a short list of principles to conduct myself by. I will no doubt add to these over the years to come, but for now, these are the ones that I find myself thinking about the most. 1. Don't raise your voice or speak unkindly to your wife in public or in private. She is the mother of your children and the keeper of your secrets. 2. Financial troubles are not a topic to discuss in front of your children. They will never forget these sentences. 3. Save your money. 4. Take the time to explore your children's interests with them and be enthusiastic about their projects. Saying "good job" is not as good as saying "can you show me how to do that too?" 5. Shape yourself into the man they trust before all other men and the standard they expect to be treated by. 6. Make the time and commit yourself to your own interests and projects and leave none of your dreams unrealized. Show them that with planning and hard work, anything is achievable. 7. Celebrate the victories of the family. These moments will be titanium in their memories. I don't think I've overthought any of this either. As she reminds me, you don't get any do-overs when you have children. You are responsible for the people they become, and they don't learn from what you say, they learn from what you do. Love and parenting are based on day-to-day work. Love is the storage unit inside which we store all those memories we cherish. Love is the promise to keep doing better for someone else. Love is the willingness to spend the rest of your existence working to make someone else's life better. That is my job. I'm a dad, and I love it. Well, that's it for that episode. Thank you for watching or listening, and if it felt like I was preaching, forgive me. I just get very excited about this topic. If you liked the episode, please consider subscribing, following, liking, and sharing. If you're a dad or thinking about being a dad, please drop us a comment. I'd love to be able to be in touch and to discuss more topics. All right, that's it. Bye.